We have a major development today coming straight out of Washington. President Trump says he is canceling all executive orders signed using an auto pen, a device that prints the president's signature. If this actually moves forward, it could reshape Medicare rules, student loan payments, border operations, and other crucial changes that will impact everyday Americans. So today, we're breaking down the 10 biggest policies that could change if these reversals move ahead. And we're starting from number 10 and counting our way to number 1. Let's get into it. 10. Medicare and prescription drug rules. A major reversal here could change how much people pay for critical medications, and it starts with Executive Order 14036. This order directed federal agencies to expand competition in the drug market, strengthen Medicare's negotiating power, and support efforts to lower the cost of some of the most expensive prescriptions in the country. Right now, Medicare is in the early stages of negotiating prices for a small set of high-cost drugs. If the order is canceled, expansion of those negotiations could stall or stop altogether, slowing progress on lowering insulin prices and limiting future cuts on cancer drugs, autoimmune medications, and other widely used treatments. To give an example, Medicare's first negotiated list included 10 drugs that represented billions in total spending. Without this executive order, the government may lose momentum, leaving prices unchanged for millions. It wouldn't hit all at once, but over the next year or two, rising out-of-pocket costs could become more noticeable at pharmacies across the country. And while healthcare costs are a major concern, the next area could see changes much more quickly, especially at the federal level. 9. Immigration and border policies. This reversal could be one of the fastest and most visible. Executive Order 14010 told federal agencies to expand humanitarian pathways, adjust deportation priorities, reform asylum processing, and revisit protections for DACA recipients. These rules influenced how cases were processed and who qualified for certain programs. If this order is canceled, immigration agencies could quickly shift back to older standards, which would change how applications are evaluated and how quickly cases move through the system. That could tighten eligibility for humanitarian programs, increase deportation priorities, and limit certain protections that have been in place since 2021. Changes like these affect more than border crossings. They influence workforce availability, federal spending, and even payroll tax contributions, which help fund programs like Social Security and Medicare. For example, when deportation priorities changed several years ago, processing times shifted dramatically within months. A similar effect could happen again if Executive Order 14010 is reversed. But while immigration shapes the system from the outside, the next policy area affects something far closer to home: healthcare coverage. 8. Healthcare access and ACA marketplace rules. A reversal here could change insurance access and enrollment options across the entire Affordable Care Act marketplace. Executive Order 14009 instructed agencies to expand ACA enrollment opportunities, strengthen outreach, roll back certain restrictions from previous years, and increase access to subsidies for eligible households. If this order is reversed, outreach programs could shrink, enrollment windows could shorten, and certain protections that made it easier for people to qualify for coverage might be rolled back. That means fewer options for families trying to find affordable plans, and more people could face gaps in coverage. For example, the special enrollment expansions introduced in 2021 allowed millions to sign up outside the normal deadlines. Those adjustments came directly from this order. Without it, people could once again face tighter rules and fewer ways to get coverage during life changes or emergencies. And while insurance access affects families one by one, the next category affects entire communities and the projects funded around them. 7. Federal spending and economic directives. This category could redirect billions of federal dollars across the country. Executive Order 14005, along with related guidance, instructed agencies to prioritize U.S.-made materials, support domestic manufacturing, and enforce stricter procurement rules when distributing federal contracts. If these directives are reversed, federal agencies could relax Buy America provisions, adjust procurement standards, and reshape how infrastructure funds are allocated. That would affect which companies win contracts, how materials are sourced, and which states see delayed or accelerated projects. For example, certain broadband and transportation projects were prioritized because of domestic sourcing requirements tied to this order. If those requirements change, funding could shift, creating new winners and losers depending on state-level capacity. It's a change that impacts everything from road repairs to water systems, affecting communities nationwide. And while funding rules shape big projects, the next area affects millions of working Americans and the agencies that employ them. 6. Labor and federal workforce policies. A significant shift here could reshape workplace rules for millions of federal employees. Executive Order 1403 reinstated collective bargaining rights, restored union protections, and revised several employment policies that had been scaled back previously. If the order is canceled, federal workers could see weakened negotiating power, stricter disciplinary rules, and shifts in how performance reviews or workplace disputes are handled. These changes often influence private contractors as well, meaning the impact could extend to companies that work with federal agencies. When similar restrictions were in place in earlier years, some agencies experienced higher turnover and slower processing times because workers had fewer tools to negotiate working conditions. Reversing Executive Order 1403 could bring back those challenges, impacting federal services, staffing, and day-to-day operations. But the next item reaches deeply into household budgets, especially for families who still carry federal student loans. 5. Student loan rules and repayment programs. A reversal here could raise monthly payments for millions of borrowers, including older adults carrying Parent Plus loans. Much of the recent repayment flexibility came from administrative action connected to Executive Order 14041, which instructed agencies to improve repayment options and expand targeted relief. Programs like the SAVE Plan, which capped interest and lowered payments for many, were built on this foundation. If Executive Order 14041 is reversed, repayment rules could revert to older formulas where interest grows faster and payments increase significantly for many households. A recent analysis found that borrowers in income-driven plans could see their monthly payments double if newer rules disappear. And because millions of borrowers over 40 still carry federal loans, this isn't a young person-only issue. For many families, a reversal here means higher bills almost immediately. And the next category is already expected to end up in court, with questions about pardons, sentencing, and legal oversight. For criminal justice and clemency actions, this category could trigger major legal disputes. Executive Order 14074 instructed the Justice Department to adjust policing practices, revise sentencing guidelines, and expand certain review processes related to clemency and pardons. Reversing actions tied to this order could reopen questions about prior pardons, marijuana possession relief, and sentencing reforms that were processed in the last few years. But undoing a pardon is extremely rare. Courts generally treat clemency as final. That means the legal battles around this could be lengthy and unpredictable. For instance, when Biden's marijuana possession pardons were issued, thousands became eligible for record relief. If these actions are challenged or paused, people could face uncertainty about whether their records still qualify for those benefits. This is one of the categories where experts expect immediate court involvement. And while the courts may slow down those changes, the next category affects everyday operations in places people rely on: hospitals, airports, and government buildings. 3. Pandemic-era health and safety directives. A reversal in this area could change how federal workplaces, airports, hospitals, and transportation agencies handle health and safety protocols. Executive Order 13999 provided guidance for vaccination standards, testing procedures, masking policies, and emergency responses across multiple departments. If these directives are canceled, agencies like TSA, OSHA, and VA hospitals could shift back toward older, less standardized guidelines. That could affect safety expectations in federal buildings, travel environments, and medical facilities. For example, last year an OSHA update tied to this order changed how certain exposures are reported. Reversing Executive Order 13999 could return the system to older reporting rules that many health professionals say were less consistent. These changes could impact federal workers and contractors almost immediately. And while health rules affect safety, the next category affects something almost every American interacts with daily: technology and online privacy. 2. Tech, competition, and consumer protections. A major reversal here could loosen rules on big tech, data privacy, and online consumer protections. The same Executive Order 14036 that influenced drug pricing also directed agencies to increase oversight of tech companies, strengthen enforcement on anti-competitive practices, and expand privacy protections. If the order is canceled, the FTC and DOJ may scale back investigations into large tech mergers, relax certain privacy transparency requirements, and allow companies more leeway in how they collect and use data. Because so many services now depend on online accounts, mobile apps, and digital communication, this category affects almost everyone. One report tied to this order required mobile carriers to disclose more information about location tracking. Without that directive, those standards could weaken, changing how companies handle sensitive data. And that leads us to number 1, the area likely to hit household budgets the fastest. 1. Energy, climate, and home utility policies. This is the category with the fastest and broadest impact on everyday costs. Executive Order 13990 and Executive Order 14008 created the framework for federal climate policy, environmental rules, emission standards, and energy efficiency guidelines. Reversing these orders could shift U.S. energy policy overnight. That means changes to oil and gas production rules, adjustments to utility regulations, revised home appliance standards, and altered incentives for renewable energy. Any of these changes can directly influence the cost of gasoline, electricity, home heating, and energy-related upgrades. For example, methane regulations scheduled to tighten next year were expected to influence production costs in the oil and gas sector. If those rules are paused or reversed, producers may change operations quickly, which often affects prices at the pump and on monthly utility bills. This is why energy sits at number 1. It touches every household and shapes everyday living costs faster than almost any other policy. So with all of these potential reversals on the table, what do you think? Would changing these executive orders help bring more stability, or could it end up creating more uncertainty for everyday people?